First of all, I am sorry that you had these experiences. No kid should grow up that way, in my opinion. To your question, though, I have found that my definition of what is violence, what is abuse, what causes trauma, my answer to them has changed significantly in the few years that I've been doing therapy. Just kind of because I'm a nerd, I quickly Googled the definition of violence, and the second definition listed includes a strength of an unpleasant or destructive force. So, the way that we would maybe typically see that would be I was filled with violent emotions. By the way, the first definition is use force in a way that is intended to hurt, harm, or. And I think people who use, whether it's spanking or other things that I would still consider to be authoritarian parenting, but that wouldn't include physical force, which for me would be lots of yelling, would be intentionally making your children afraid of you, intentionally using shame, like coercive, control based parenting methods rather than trying to encourage your kid and like collaborate with them and like respect them basically. I think that any of those authoritarian tactics are forms of violence because they are using force, and I think it's a destructive force. I have no doubt that anybody who uses those parenting methods wouldn't see it that way. But I think that ultimately what utilizing force in parenting really comes down to is you have to make that kid smaller to make them compliant. I think when fear, shame, or physical violence is used to get compliance, that it is destructive for that child, for especially for their developing brain, but also just kind of for their self-confidence, their sense of agency and autonomy, how much respect they think they're worth. And I think when something is destructive, when it's causing damage, that it makes sense to say that it's a form of violence. So I don't have like a specific study to point to, but just from like books I've read and things, my understanding is that when children are raised in a traumatic environment, that it literally damages the brain. I think especially the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala show up differently when your brain develops under extreme stress. If you're in fight or flight for much of your childhood, your brain is different than a child who grew up in a home where they usually felt safe and weren't often in fight or flight and weren't flooded with these stress hormones all the time. And so to me, if scary environment like you're describing can alter the way that a brain develops, then I think it's definitely destructive. It's definitely violence. It's just my opinion, but